Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Resurrected or Winners You podcast. I've not done that in a while, so we're back resurrected. I guess it's apt for this podcast.
On the dead, yeah.
Given that
perfect.
Our muse for this episode is very much dead and then not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into that, we are, like I said, we are the Winners You podcast, and for those of you who are new to these parts, think of us as your new video game book club hailing from both ends of the United Kingdom, offering deep dive into a different game just about every other week. We talk ins, outs, ups, downs, and every so often, if we're lucky, we stumble into something interesting along the way. This week, it's something a little bit different, something a little bit interesting. This was originally penciled in for February, I think we spoke about in the last podcast, but we've missed that, so we've pushed it to March.
David saved it with a new naming convention.
What was the
alliterative properties of the previous
one?
Well,
I think we cannot do this unless we can find an
I was going to scrap the whole lot just to be like, look, we can't do it now. It won't fit February Film Fest, and that means so much to me.
What was it? February Film... I was going to say February Film Fest. Was it a film fest?
Yeah,
it was a festival.
Yeah. But instead, we've gone mad.
We've gone mad into March Madness. What we're going to do this time, Alex, this is your idea, and I feel like you always do a better job of explaining it. So why do you not explain to the many millions of listeners at home about what this is and why this is different from our usual deep dive? Because we still played a game.
We have still played a game.
We've just got some additive benefits to it.
Yeah, we basically just added a movie to it.
Yeah,
because you said, "Oh, I wish we could talk about films more." So here we are. We decided to have sort of a mini series every year, as we are wont to do. But this time around, for this month, it will be ones that, well, I think it's a lot looser than we originally first planned. But it's basically like going to be a game and then something related to it in the film industry. Probably a lot of the time that will mean licensed games, but it may also just be genre pieces, like as we mentioned. Well, you mentioned to me the other day, something like LA Noire, and then I don't know, LA Confidential or whatever. But you know, you've got to watch a nonce if you watch that one. So we'll think about that. It's a good film, actually. Most of Kevin Spacey's films are good, but I haven't watched one since he did all that.
Since he did all that. Yeah, I think the last thing I watched that he was in, I'm sure he had a movie come out at that time. I may have seen that, but House of Cards, I think, was the last thing I watched with him in it. I
was really looking forward to that, and then I decided I'm never going to watch it.
Yeah, that's a shame. He's ruined it.
Yeah.
He's not ruined this, though. There's no Kevin Spacey in this movie or game.
No, there is not. I don't think that... what's the guy's name? What's the RoboCop bloke called?
Don't ask me. I was watching
Peter Weller. I don't think Peter Weller's ever done anything bad. He probably has, but we don't know about it.
I mean, I was watching the special features of RoboCop. We're playing RoboCop Rogue City, and I've watched the first RoboCop movie. Alex has done the business and watched the first two. Is that right? You didn't bother with three.
I just finished RoboCop 2 like 20 minutes ago.
Good man. So I was watching the special features, and apparently the director has a cameo in the first RoboCop movie, and I was like, because the director Paul Verhoeven.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that it was Paul Verhoeven, and the special features was just like cameo, and it was just like it's Paul Verhoeven, blah 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 blah, and I was like, who is this guy? Turns out he's a director. And the reason I'm saying this is how stupid it is. Holding the DVD up, if you want to watch, check out the YouTube video of this. In big red writing on the front, it says directed by Paul Verhoeven.
It does.
I've got two things to say to you before we dive into this.
Oh, that was a director's cut. I didn't even realise that.
Oh, nice. Oh, so it's mine. Don't know what the difference is. And we never will, because all I've got now is the director's cut.
Well, I have the original here. I wonder if this is the director's cut as well. Option to watch director's cut. Well, I probably already did that then. Fuck's sake. So I will never know.
Right, Alex, before we dive into this, I've got two things that I've been thinking about for a while, but I was like, I can't text Alex about this. This is probably best saved for a podcast discussion as a non sequitur.
Yeah. If you're listening out there and you want to have like a normal relationship with your friends where you just discuss things as they come up in conversation, or when you really want to talk to somebody, don't start a podcast with them, because then you may have to hold off. What were we doing the other day? We were talking about something, weren't we? And I said no employment or knowledge and insight until it's business hours. Yeah, so that, our friendship doesn't function quite on a normal level these days.
First
We're
up,
above it.
this is a fantastic movie to start with. One, because I'd never seen RoboCop before,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
two, which is going to undermine I'm just about to undermine myself based on what I've just said, is my absolute favorite sort of genre slash time period in movies is like 80s 90s action movie.
Uh-huh.
I just don't think there's anything I like better. So like Terminator, Demolition Man, well, RoboCop we add to this list, Die Hard, um, Speed, Under Siege,
Mm,
like all those types of movies. There's something I just love about them and find them. I don't know. They're just pure joy. It's like in my
they are.
head, it's like someone sat down to write a script for a movie, and before they've gone, can I turn this into a 700 movie saga that we can that we can make billions out of? They have just gone. I don't know. Robot cop sounds fun. uh,
Yeah.
Big explosions. Let's make him do this because that sounds cool. Does it make sense? Nah, who gives a fuck? Beverly Hills Cop's another one that I'm a big fan of.
Everything Jackie Chan did that was good was
Yeah.
in this period.
So yeah, like I say, I'm just so into this sort of type of movie, and RoboCop was a real blind spot of mine, having been into that. The second thing is, right, this is going to take a minute, but I feel like I've thought this through, and I think this makes sense. I think you and I have spoke about this sort of slightly tangentially over the years, certainly probably at uni sometime, but like when I was a kid, I spent all this money buying, like for years, my pocket money would go on VHS tapes, and I had this massive collection. And then DVDs came along, and my brain was like, well, VHSs are utterly pointless now. They need to go away. Obviously nobody was buying VHSs at the time, so they were just basically went in the bin, I think, a lot of them. So then I started, and then spent years building up a massive DVD collection. And then at some point, Blu-rays came along, and I was like, well, my DVD collection is pointless now. So out went the DVDs.
Shout out to my friend Simon, who has, or had at least, the largest HD DVD collection I've ever seen.
Did he?
And I believe he broke his HD DVD player, so I sold him my add-on for my Xbox 360 so he could carry on. Honestly, he had like dozens
He
of
went
HD
he went
DVDs. He
deep.
got basically everything that there was ever released that he cared
Top
about
man.
on HD DVD. Yeah.
Similar happened with CDs as well. Like I never really had tapes. I think that sort of missed me. But I had a massive CD collection, and then
Yeah, I had mini disc players and stuff.
yeah,
So
I don't even own a CD player anymore. I don't think so. Like that went away and just became, I don't know, Spotify or like illegally downloaded music.
I was gonna say I don't even own the music that I listen to these days. Like I
Which
used to buy. I stuck to not Spotify for ages, just buying albums by bands, and then I realized like, hang on, Apple Music is probably, or Spotify or whatever is far more valuable to just have than buying albums one at a time.
which then tied into a conversation I was having with my friend, shout out to Scott, who is cancelling all his subscription services, so Netflix, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime. It's all going, and he's getting Sky TV and Sky Sports, because Sky TV apparently now is mega cheap. I was looking, you can get it like, if you don't get the sports, it's like 25 quid a month now. And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, for the amount I watch TV, the only thing I actually want to watch is sports. So
I have Sky TV basically for that as well.
yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, because he's got a Disney, he had like a lot of subscription services, which then got me thinking, because for a while I was like, right, I'm not having physical media when it comes to movies and stuff, because it's a mugs game. You end up on this treadmill and you're constantly having to replace the stuff you buy with the better quality versions. So for years I've been buying the digital versions on Amazon Prime of the movies that I want to keep that
buying
were
or
on a streaming service.
Not renting.
No, I've been
Actually
purchasing
buying them.
Yeah. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, I know places like Netflix say they stream 4K, but it's not real 4K, is it? And I was like, well, the versions of these movies I've bought on Amazon aren't 4K either. So then I was like, and even if they were,
not?
well,
You bought the SD version.
There's also there'll be HD, but there's no way to download a local copy. They're always streamed, so you're always going to have a lesser quality, which then links back to my Spotify thing we're talking about. Like, if have I accidentally opened a can of worms here, in which I've realized that even if you divorce yourself from physical media, you're actually still on the treadmill, whether you like it or not, of having to periodically upgrade the things you really care about. Because, like I say, even though I've got and it's like it, so it.
Well, Netflix charges for the 4K
Well, yeah,
anyway.
and then the Spotify thing, like if you like, it's saying like I've sort of turned up a rock or like overturned a rock that I shouldn't have. Like if you're really into your audio, like a massive audio file, Spotify is not good quality, is it? I mean, there's like higher bitrate stuff like Tidal that do better quality stuff, and then I think actually having the full uncompressed downloaded version of the song on locally is going to be always better than streaming it.
I mean, people will say listening to an LP is the way to go there. Well,
yeah, because that's the uncompressed. That's just like that's the actual noise compressed, so you're hearing it as it was recorded, right? It's not been edited. So then, which got me thinking, should I? And then I was like totting up the prices of all my subscriptions and stuff, and I was like, should I just bin my subscription services and invest in a 4K DVD player, and if I want to watch something, I'll just either buy the Blu-ray version, and if I'm like really into the movie, I'll buy the 4K version, and then just be done with that? Because it's actually like I was thinking about the actual like, so I've got Disney Plus. Can't remember the last time I even opened up that app. Paramount, I've sort of.
You haven't got a kid though, so
yeah,
there's a
I've sort of dawdled about
there.
Netflix. I haven't used in I don't know years, but I've still got it. So I was just like the money I'm spending is perhaps maybe I need to make a triumphant return to physical media. I guess is the long story short, and just try and be careful with what I'm buying rather than building up massive collections, and just accept that no matter what happens, I'm going to be on this treadmill of replacing media every 10 to 15 years, whether I like it or not.
If you are going to do that, I guess the way for you to do it is the disc drive for the PS5 is £100.
All right, okay, maybe that's the way to do it, because I've been googling like the best. I've been googling like reviews of like the best 4K players and stuff like that, and Sony does seem to be the one that people always talk about. So yeah, long story short, I'm thinking about getting back into the movie physical media game. Like I've got a nice big TV, like a 4K TV, and it's like I'm actually not getting the use out of this screen by streaming shit from the internet. I could have a better quality experience by getting back into physical media. What do you think, Alex? Am I just looking for a way to waste more money?
Well, maybe. I mean, I have still got a massive, really extensive DVD collection.
Do you use them?
Well, I did just now. I just finished using a RoboCop DVD, and the quality of DVD should not be forgotten, because it's still really good. Like, arguably, a lot of the time, DVD quality is going to be better than Netflix 4K if you've got a bad internet like I do. So that was still, that was through my PS5 upscaled on a 4K TV. I don't know how big my TV is, 50 inches or whatever. It looks really crisp, really nice. And it's a film from whenever it is from, early 90s, isn't it? Or very late 80s. 1990.
You that said you've got you've got the 4K version of Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh, that would be so fun to get that and just sit and watch them one weekend in glorious 4K. And then I was thinking, just like getting the odd cool movie. I mean, like Blade Runner would be another good one, I think, that would be fun in 4K. And then I was looking at other stuff. So like Paramount Plus, I've been really lightly dabbling in the Halo TV show. And I was like, well, so am I just going to end up with these streaming services anyway to watch like exclusive stuff? And then, so I had a look in, but then Halo is on 4K DVD as well. So if I really want to watch it, it's there.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm thinking about getting back into it.
Yeah, 4K DVD is still quite pricey. I usually stick one on a Christmas list or whatever for something I'm really wanting to watch that year, or watch again that year, or an absolute classic that I absolutely love. Like I've got Old Boy on 4K DVD, and I've got, as you said, I've got the Lord of the Rings stuff as well. But I mean, Blu-ray is still like really good quality if you put it into a decent player on a decent TV. So I've got quite a lot of them as well.
I'm thinking about doing away with streaming services, long and the short of it, and going back to
I
physical
mean,
media.
what we should all do really is what half of my extended family do, where they just have IPTV Fire Sticks and just fucking steal everything.
I just like, other than sport, the only actual thing I like, it's rare for me to really feel
I would steal sport, basically.
Yeah, I don't think that I get my money's worth from my subscriptions. I may be doing spurts, but I actually genuinely think there's a chance that if I got rid of all my subscriptions, and I would at worst break even if I just went to start buying movies. Because I've got my Cineworld card, so like I watch most of my movies at the cinema these days.
Yeah.
I don't actually watch that many at home. I'm usually playing video games if I've got some free time or reading a book.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're trying to branch out with this format, where everything has been consumed in physical media except RoboCop for me, the game. But we'll get to that later.
We will. How do you want to start this, Alex? Now that
let's talk about we'll talk about the film for a bit,
what a cool
and then
film.
when we think we've covered it enough, we'll talk about we'll go into the game, which was also very cool.
So so I sort of know where you're coming from, and like I said, I've already said my exposure to RoboCop was that I knew he existed, but I hadn't actually seen any of the movies at any point ever. It's a bit like, I think up until last year I hadn't seen an Indiana Jones film right through.
That's mad.
I must have absorbed like a whole movie.
It's too prevalent in pop culture.
Yeah, like through bits and pieces, or being in a room where my dad was watching it or something over the years. I've like eventually I'd sort of picked out most of the movie when I watched it, because I remember thinking I've seen, but I'd never actually sat down to watch it. RoboCop, I knew he existed, and that was it.
I can't remember when I got this. When was this DVD even released? Oh my god, the print is so fucking small.
Because it came out in the late 80s, right? 1987, I think the first one came out.
Yeah, the year after I was born. I have no idea when this DVD was released, but I must have had this DVD for like 15 years minimum. And so I probably first watched the original on that. Was aware of RoboCop as a kid, obviously, as you probably were as well, because he was kind of everywhere for a bit. There's the infamous WCW skit where he was there to I think promote the second film, and he saved Sting from getting beaten up he was in a shark cage, and RoboCop breaks out of a shark cage and helps out Sting, which is amazing. But I played some of the games when I was a kid. I had a game for the Amiga, I think, just a RoboCop game that I remember playing that was ridiculously difficult. RoboCop versus Terminator on the Mega Drive is an all-time classic, by the way. That's, if we're talking RoboCop games, that you need to try that.
Is it good? Is it?
Really good. But I'm really gutted actually, because I went, and it must have been with John when I worked at Blockbuster in Aberdeen. We went to see RoboCop because they showed it at the Picture House.
Oh, brilliant! Which is shut down now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. But that was one of my favorite movie experiences, because everybody in the audience knew the film, and everyone was like loving it and laughing at all the silly bits, and such a great time. Don't know why I wouldn't have gone with you as well, or why I didn't tell you about it. Maybe it was just a thing when I was at work, and he was like, RoboCop's on tonight, let's go. And we did.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. But that was, and every time I've watched it since, like now for this, I just think it's fantastic. It's it's not an absolute Oscar-winning classic, but it's a cult classic for a reason.
It's fun. It's
really fun.
And I think, I don't know, I came away, I always assumed that, and maybe I'm wrong in this, so feel free to tell me I'm speaking at my backside, but before I started playing the game and before I started watching the movie, I thought RoboCop was like a super serious thing, but it's not. It sort of knows it's a bit silly and sort of makes fun of itself, especially the game. It just knows where it's going OTT. Like there's a scene you mentioned that I find absolutely hilarious when I was watching the movie. It's when ED 209 absolutely eviscerates that man in the office, and then like the company owner, just after he's just watched this bloodbath take place, just calmly, I am very disappointed. There is no
Yeah.
way that this movie does not know what it is.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of satirical notes in it, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, talking about sort of consumerist society and things like that. But yeah, that's the most cursed boardroom in the world, right? Because doesn't somebody also die from that boardroom right at the end of the film as well?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's
how the guy with the long arms falls out the window.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, like it's obviously like a police robot, and it eviscerates the man. Like, it doesn't just like
Yeah.
put him out of action like you would expect.
Oh my
A
god.
police. It goes full blown. Like, I'm surprised there's anything left of him.
Yeah.
Because the size that those bullets must be. Like, if you rolled him onto his back, it just must be gore.
Oh, there'd be less of him than there is of RoboCop. He'd have less. You know, RoboCop's at least got his chin, which reminds me of your brilliant observation of why doesn't everybody just aim for RoboCop's chin? It's the only exposed bit. Shoot him in the fulcrum, you dicks. What are you playing at?
Yeah.
Did you have any idea that his you probably didn't. Did you just think like RoboCop was like built?
So I
Did
knew.
you realize it was from the absolutely fucking decimated corpse of a policeman?
So I had somehow absorbed the idea that he was a police officer that was then like KIA or injured. No, I think if you had asked me, I would have said like heavily injured.
Okay.
And then they sort of just thought, well, I don't know. I honestly would have thought like he'd just fallen a vat of acid and his body was just mangled. So they just sort of rebuilt him.
Later.
But yeah, like he's a full on robot. Like he's got programming and stuff like that. And it's unclear. It probably unclear. Like I'm probably thinking about it too much, but it's unclear where the robot stops and starts and where.
They certainly play into that more in the later films, and of course they do play that into that quite a lot in the game.
Mhm.
What's weird is that they talk about the fact that they erase his memory, but I guess they don't erase all of his memory.
it's
Is that
still
the
there. It's
problem?
just
Why he
sort of
suddenly
blocked.
remembers things?
Especially-
There's a bit in the second movie, right, where basically at the beginning of the movie, he's like he keeps apparently driving to his wife and his kid's house every single day,
Oh.
and just kind of looking at them and then driving off. Another point I want to just quickly throw in there is I find it fucking hilarious that RoboCop just has to drive like a normal car.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't get like a Batmobile. He's just got like a Vauxhall Astra or some shit. Like
it must be so like lopsided because he must weigh an absolute ton. Just, like, the springs are just
must
shot.
be so strong, yeah. Fucking hell.
And it is like obviously like car design has changed over the years, but it just looks like such a dump of a car as well. He's just like driving about in this rusty old sedan.
Oh, it's so good. And I guess they have to have a stuntman in there or a stunt driver who has to wear like in the second film, especially when I've seen him driving around, he's at least wearing like a top and a hat, like a helmet and sort of thing to drive about. But yeah, so he keeps going to do this, and then like I think his wife gets some sort of lawyer to try and sue the OCP because she wants to move on with her life. It's a really confusing scene because basically RoboCop gets berated by the equivalent to the guy in the game who's like forcing him to go through all these like psychological trials. There's a similar guy to that. He's like a lawyer for OCP. And he like berates RoboCop. He's like, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Like, do you think you could be a husband to her? Like, you can't do this. You're not even a man. You're not Alex Murphy. You're RoboCop." And then after that, having known that it's his wife who's sort of suing OCP because RoboCop won't leave her alone, she then shows up to his little cage, his little cage where he sits in his seat and you get your evaluation.
Gets recharged, yeah.
Comes up to him and she's like, "Shit, like you are Alex," and he's like, "Touch me," and he gets her to touch. She touches him through the cage on his face.
Right,
Like,
on his
you're
cheek,
cold.
right on his chin, or has it got his face?
On his lips.
Oh.
His lips. She's like, "Oh, they're cold," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not Alex Murphy. Your husband is dead. I don't know you." And just turns around and then she walks out crying. You gotta sue the guy still getting to leave you alone. Oh, very confusing.
Why are you driving to her house, you maniac?
And that's never heard of again for the rest of the film. Just like thrown away. I thought they were going to really, because I was watching the second film,
Mhm.
and I'll get into that briefly after we've talked about the original. The second film seemingly gets a bad rap, but no, it's perfectly fine. I enjoyed my time with it. It's just not. It's probably not as iconic as the
Okay.
first film. It's a lot more violent, or at least there's a lot more action
I
in
might
it.
watch it then
First
because
film is very violent.
I've been watching like reviews and stuff, and people always said like the first one, and what I had sort of absorbed is the one to watch, and it's kind
Yeah.
of downhill after that. But
Oh yeah,
two's
there's no
fine.
question. It's
I
downhill.
will give it a watch because like what are you
Yeah.
expecting from RoboCop? Like Oppenheimer level like,
Well,
acting.
what's really interesting about RoboCop 2 and the fact that it's like so badly criticized. Well, you look on IMDb, you'll see a lot of reviews on there, the user reviews being like, "Oh, people are too hard on this. It's perfectly good action film." Like I say, there's a lot more action to it. I think one of the big problems that a lot of people seem to have with the second one is that there's a kid in it who's like the sidekick of the main villain, and he swears a lot and he shoots people
So Terminator
and he
2
calls
then, or
women
is it Terminator?
bitches.
What's the last
He's
action hero?
worse than Terminator 2. Way worse, because that's just like a bratty kid who hangs around with the Terminator. This is like an actual antagonist, and he dies in the
Whoa, okay.
There's loads of kids in there. One kid in the second film, right? Because they go into this brief comedy routine where like RoboCop basically gets captured by the second villain, tortured to shit in a warehouse, and they chuck bits of him back to the police department out of a car, out of a moving car. They just lob this broken RoboCop, and then OCP have to fix him. But they put all this. They've got some issue with like RoboCop needs to be more of a role model to kids because he keeps killing everybody who's a criminal or whatever. So this woman puts loads of this stupid programming in, and he becomes like a comedy character where some kids are like, because this is, in the game, the police are on strike.
Is this why there's a bit in the game where you can do a dance, like a robot dance? Is that where that comes from?
I think that might be the third one. He definitely doesn't dance in the film from what I remember, but it's more like because the police are on strike, like everyone's just committing crimes. The beginning of the second film starts with an incredible like crime montage where like there's a homeless woman with a trolley full of cans, then a car runs the trolley of cans over, and she's like scrambling to pick them up. A dude comes over to help her, but then steals her purse. Then he's running off with her purse. Then he gets tripped up and beaten the shit out of by two hooers, who like steal from him. And then they're running along, and then they run past a shop, like a weapon shop that blows up, and then people inside are like shooting the owner and stealing all of his bazookas to kill RoboCop. It's fucking wild. But because there's so much crime going on, like RoboCop goes to this like, I don't know, electronics shop, and there's like looks like a baseball team, a kid's baseball team, like holding up the store owner, beating him up with baseball bats. And then RoboCop like comes in and tries to teach the kids manners and he says like, and now to talk about nutrition. And he starts just saying really stupid things like that. He like shoots around when people like shoot around the guy and leave like a little silhouette or a chalk outline in bullets because he's smoking, and he's like, thank you for not smoking. And then he just becomes it just gets a bit silly briefly in the middle there before he then tries to remove all the programming, which I won't spoil for you because it's very funny.
So there's one thing I got confused about then in the first movie. There's like the OCP guy that sort of for a period of time usurps the second in command guy that gets killed at the end of the movie. I thought he was the same guy that's in the game.
It's just it's like a carbon copy, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, because I was like, they're the same people, and then he gets blown up in the movie, and I was like, oh, does he survive? Has he like come back in the second movie or something? But no, I don't think.
Oh,
so.
there's another one of those in the second movie. Who's also not the guy in the game. But yeah, so I think the second film, the use of children in there, I think people have an issue with. The whole reason I brought up all that stuff about the plot is one of the kids, when he's trying to stop them from holding up that store, says to him, "Go fuck a refrigerator, pecker neck," which I found quite a good insult.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Like dick neck?
Yeah, okay. I was about to say, I don't think pecker means the same in America, maybe, than it does in the UK. It's just like a fanny thing.
Yeah. But yes, another thing, I've gone off on so many tangents for this, probably because I've just watched RoboCop 2. The funny thing about the criticism that it gets is that it was directed by Irvin Kershner, who was the director of Empire Strikes Back.
Different director. unusual.
And written by Frank Miller, who also wrote the third one.
Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Of course, Dark Knight Returns fame.
Exactly.
So,
Very
a
interesting.
widely respected comics writer.
Yeah.
Wrote apparently
Is he
the
not
two worst
involved
RoboCop
in?
films.
There's a famous comic book writer, and I can't remember the name of the one that gets involved in the graphic novel of Terminator versus RoboCop.
I really want to read that.
I think that's him as well. It may not be. It might be worth a Google.
He did write RoboCop comics. I did read that. So maybe it was Frank Miller.
It's
written by Frank Miller. You're absolutely right.
Well, it's in my brain. I just want to say it's unusual, even for a movie of this type and era, to be almost completely devoid of a love interest. Like, it's rare to get a movie that there's no love interest in.
It's quite respectable that his main interest on a human level is just to be a good partner and friend to Lewis, who he maintains that with as the series goes on. But there's no, I mean, you can't have a love interest. Look at the state of him.
You can't. I mean, like,
apparently he's got a pecker for a neck. So
yeah,
I mean, that just doesn't work from a logistical standpoint.
I was trying to work out. There's a sort of there's an emotional connection between him and Lewis, and she does get her chebs out right at the beginning of the first movie for no reason whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
And then never again.
She does.
I was like, yeah, this is 80s needless nudity. Here we come. But yeah, like, I don't know. There's like it's not. I don't know. It's not quite love, but there's certainly a. And I don't mean to be. I don't mean to be dismissive here or maybe unfair, but there's almost an unearned closeness between RoboCop and I'm blanked on her name.
And Lewis,
yeah, because like at the start, like he dies literally on their first day, so they've known each other for about 4 hours, and then he comes back.
His first day?
It's his first day, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets killed, and then she comes back, and then all of a sudden, by the end of the movie, they're like close, like besties, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't I guess quite.
Maybe the part of that is just the guilt, isn't there? Because she sort of leaves him. Yeah, they get separated, and and then he gets fucking annihilated. That shotgun to the hand is so needlessly savage right at the beginning.
It does. It just like it. I would be interested to see how this was received in the 80s, because it was like brutal, and then it was like went to a point where you're like, oh my god, what are they doing? And then when you actually get to the end of the scene, like the point where your brain goes, oh my god, what are they doing? That was like the first 10%. And then they just keep going. They keep going. It reminds me a little bit. I remember, again, I don't know where it was, but I think I spoke to you about it when I was watching the Predator movie. I was watching the special features after I'd watched that movie, and there's a bit where they're looking for Predator. It might not even be the first one, but they're in the jungle anyway. I think that's the first one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Predator 2's in the city. There's a bit where they think they see him, and then the guy that's got the massive gun just like unloads every bullet he's got into this, and they basically just like level this forest.
Yeah.
And they've said it was meant to be almost like a sexual, like climactic, just like explosion of violence that had no point to it. And it kind of reminded me of that. I wonder if that was just a thing that happened in these movies during that era, where they just thought like gratuitous violence is what people wanted.
Yeah, and you know, this is post Video Nasty era as well.
What's that?
So like, you know, the Video Nasties, which was like referred to like, you know, low budget like horror and exploitation films on like VHS in the early 80s. They but basically like there's a loophole in film classification, so that if I think it's if stuff that was brought straight to video, they didn't have to put it through the BBFC, so it just came out to like horrific shit. So maybe at this point, it's the Video Recordings Act that was created after like in 1984. So maybe because of that, like people had seen worse shit, or maybe they're just a bit desensitized to it. I'm not sure. Maybe the moral panic around that kind of thing had died down by the time RoboCop came out. I'm not
possibly. Sure. I do also think it's difficult to. I mean, it's less relevant in the UK, but if you watch any of the news ever, you kind of can't miss it. it's difficult. It's impossible to watch these sort of era movies and not be reminded of the sort of current political climate around the police in America. Like,
Yeah.
so like again, like this one, RoboCop, Lethal Weapon, Beverly Hills Cop, like even Demolition Man to an extent. Like, it's all about like rogue cops that distribute sort of Judge Dredd level, like on the street justice to the criminals.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it sort of struck me as an interesting contrast in how different the American political landscape is. It, like, obviously that was what people wanted back in the 80s and 90s in terms of entertainment, but I cannot imagine something like that coming out and doing well in 2024.
Yeah, maybe was there like a rise of sort of hero cop stuff after that for a bit? Maybe.
Yeah.
But you're right. There does always seem to have to be like an anti-hero, so as you say, like a renegade loose cannon policeman. There was a big thing about, and even Die Hard as well, wasn't it? It's all
Stop
there.
or my mum will shoot.
I've never seen that. I want to see that.
Oh, it's so good, man. Yeah, it's just like,
Nice.
yeah, it just sort of jumps out to me as a bit of a contrast, in that, like, yeah, like you're saying, like the police going around with their guns blasting criminals, and now there's like campaigns to defund the police and stuff like that. America still is gun nuts as it ever was.
Yeah.
But I don't know, in a sort of different direction, which I thought was interesting.
True. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's I don't think I've ever seen in a film RoboCop arrest anybody.
No, he just kills them, blows them
Yeah.
even gets his own special gun that will eviscerate people.
What a cool gun. That he slits back into his thigh. Talking about, like, I guess, film making part of it. One of my favorite parts is like the transition, from when RoboCop is shot in the head. So
Yes.
he sort of blacks out from being shot in the head, and then the blackout, then the next time it comes, like, fades back in. It's his like RoboCop vision, and as they're building him, like, I'm a big fan of that. That was parodied in Spaced as well.
Oh, was it?
The whole episode with the Robot Wars thing. There's a lot of RoboCop references in that, from what I can remember.
Excellent.
Where they're sort of doing the same sort of vision about that. But there's a lot of dark humor in it as well. Big fan of the bit where RoboCop saves that woman who's being held up by shooting through her skirt into the guy behind her.
Oh my God, yes.
And then there's like isn't there like there's like one of the evil guys in Clarence's gang or whatever. He like distracts Lewis by kind of like looking at his dick, doesn't he?
Yeah, he
He's
does.
like,
he's having a pee, and
and
then she
that's what
comes
it
in,
is.
she just
Yeah.
checks out his massive penis. They're another thing I quite liked is, I mean, they are silly, the bad guys in this, but
yes,
one thing that jumped out to me when I watched Predator 2 recently is that I actually never Googled it, but I'd be interested to know which movie came out first, because the bad guys in Predator 2 are almost like, I always think of them like theater stage villains. They're sort of over the top. They're like dressed like they're in costumes rather than just criminals. And at some point during this era of film, there's a switch between like villains being over the top. They've all got mohawks. They're all like they're from an episode of like the movie Waterworld, and then they just sort of turn into normal people. They turn a bit grimy. I mean, even Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man, he's wearing like brightly coloured dungarees and stuff. They're a little bit weird, and they just sort of make them look punky, like they're on a stage show. Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, I know I'm not explaining myself well, but I thought the bad guys in this are fairly okay. Like, the guns and stuff they run about with are ridiculous. But the actual way they look, they're just like normal people. Even like
especially Clarence.
Clarence, yeah. Is that Red?
He looks like a librarian
from that
or
70s
something.
show? Is that who Clarence is? Yeah.
Yeah, he's very normal. Even if he does walk into a room and shout, "Bitches leave!" Well, they're in. Is that Dick's house that he's in?
Yeah,
I think that's Dick. Because he's the one who gets blown up, right? And but Bob is the sort of head of the RoboCop program, but
That's
Dick
right.
is like his superior.
Yeah.
Because that's when he's talking shit about him in the toilets, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then Dick's kind of sat in there, and then doesn't he say something like, I've got it here. I used to call the old man funny names, Iron Butt, Boner. I've never. I mean, why would you refer to anybody as Boner?
Did you notice when you go up the lift in the OCP building in the game, you can go and walk around that toilet scene?
Can you?
Yeah, they've remade that exact toilet in the exact layout and all the bits and pieces.
That's so cool.
Yeah, there's so much of that.
The reference to the source material in Rogue City is outstanding. Like it's everything perfect.
Yeah, even reminded me of when you were talking about how he still got to drive about in a normal car. That is like they ripped that loading screen as you're leaving the police station is another exact like when I watched it I was like, oh, holy shit, that's from the game, but obviously it's the other way around.
yeah exactly. Yeah, the little sort of like outside kind of, it's like a weird angle, like just there's always a car pulling in out of nowhere. I think I said to you as well, 1980s stuntman death like reactions to getting shot.
So
these
good.
1 and 2 are absolutely full of them. I love them. Like I obviously I've never seen a man be shot in real life. I just would never expect them to leap backwards.
I think that's
into
unlikely.
A pile of boxes or something. I think that's very, very unlikely. But as I said, the second film's got far more action in it. Like it's a full on, like every couple of minutes there's somebody's like some explosion or whatever. They've got like quite a lot of stuff from the game, obviously, as the game is supposed to follow on from RoboCop 2. There's quite a lot of stuff in that. So Maya Kuzak is in RoboCop 2.
Is he? Right, okay.
Yeah, he's quite a big role in it actually. RoboCop 2 is in RoboCop 2, which is really weird because RoboCop 2 in the film RoboCop 2 is bad basically from the start.
As in another RoboCop in RoboCop.
Yeah, you know, in the game you have to have that boss fight with RoboCop 2 at the end, and it's got like the screen of the old man, like his face is on the screen.
Oh yeah.
And they have him at you're at a presentation at one point as well, where
the old MacGuffin comes out. Yeah,
you sort of stood next to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the film that precedes the game, like RoboCop 2 has gone on a fucking shooting spree because he is embodied by the brain of a fucking drug addicted, like the main villain of the second film.
Okay.
The way RoboCop kills him is fucking hilarious as well. I don't know if it's not really spoiling it for you.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, these movies, I don't think it's possible to spoil these movies.
Yeah. But so because they build RoboCop 2 by getting the brain and nervous system and eyes of this criminal guy, but it's also he's addicted to Nuke, which I don't think was in the first film either, or at least it wasn't.
Not that I can recall. No, certainly prevalent in the game.
Yeah, and they also talk a lot about. They don't mention it by name, but they start talking about Delta City in RoboCop 2 as well. They have like a big presentation about it, and Maya Kuzak's there.
Maybe
really
there is a drug factory in quotation marks that you go into in RoboCop 1 in the movie.
There's a big shootout in there.
Is that
there?
maybe
that's where most of those stuntmen are hanging out?
Yeah,
it must. Yeah, maybe. I can't remember. I thought it was cocaine because I assume it was cocaine. Going flying.
Well, the guy that gets blown up in his house, he's like sniffing cocaine off all the women.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah. But yeah, this one is more definitely that they're using Nuke all the way through, like injecting it in their necks and all this kind of shit. But yeah, because he's addicted to Nuke in real life, RoboCop 2, the robot, is addicted to Nuke, and he's got like this slot, and they have this sort of industrial vat of Nuke that they want to put in him. So they stick it in him to distract him, and then RoboCop basically jumps on his back, rips the brain and spinal cord out of the back of the robot, and just smashes it on the floor with his hand. Did not expect that in of him just squishing a brain on the floor. Fucking brilliant.
That's one thing that I both enjoyed and would periodically not be able to equate in my head. Like, RoboCop is not the most how do I say this, like, mobile of antagonists in the world. So like, I find action scenes in which he's in slightly comical. Like, there's a bit is it when he goes to OCP and Ed 209 starts shooting at him, and he's just sort of like, he just sort of spins on the spot a few times and falls over a lot. There's no like sprinting about because he can't really. I mean, like, that's another problem. No. It's like criminals, one, shoot him in the chin, two, just leg it.
Just run at any normal human speed and he's not catching you.
He's not, surely not.
I'm a big fan of 1980s, early 90s stop motion practical effects. Like, I think they're really funny.
Yeah.
And I respect the craft of it, because it must have taken so much effort to like do these models and move them so intricately like that. But in the second film, there is a lot of RoboCop as a stop motion thing as well. When he's having fights with RoboCop 2, I mean, it looks like you'd expect. It looks like two toys being like thrown around by a nerd in a studio. There's a bit where they're like hanging off the edge of the building, and it really just looks like a 2-year-old just chucked a toy over a bit of plastic. But there's all the fights with those two, like, they look very obviously stop motion practical effects. But there's a charm to that. There's an honesty to it, and it's in the first film with Ed 209 as well. And
I did say this to you.
I can't help but like it.
We were chatting about it, and I was watching the Ed 209 stuff, thinking, "Oh, this stuff has aged pretty poorly." But then I watched the special features at the end, and I was realized that actually, no, you're right. These are this is a stop motion, animation of like a car, or like something that they've put together with like cardboard and some nails that they got down the hardware store. It's like, actually, what they've managed to do here with the limitations and the constraints that they were operating within, and these movies must have been quite low budget. It's quite amazing, actually. Really good job.
Oh yeah,
they haven't aged quite as well as sort of the Star Wars. What is it like, the physical effects and the?
I mean, Star Wars, they just basically were like toys just being held in front of a black space screen, weren't they? Really,
to make
they
those.
were. Yeah.
It's interesting to watch different eras of special effects. I find that really interesting. You know, like I remember Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs, where Dr. Grant sees the Diplodocus for the first time. Remember, that was just like this massive thing where it's just like, look how good these look. The T-Rex still looks amazing to this day, but the Diplodocus section looks poor. I think by comparison.
Yeah, the T-Rex do look good in that.
Yeah.
And again, the practical T-Rex looks even cooler.
Yeah, the Raptor stuff is amazing with all the puppets and stuff that they used, and then there's another one I was thinking about. It's like a sort of halfway house. Yeah, the first time I remember watching a truly like CGI animated thing that I was like, oh my god, this looks amazing, was is it Terminator 3 or 4? What's the one with the female Terminator in it? It must be 3.
That's 3. Yeah.
There's a bit where there's like a big crane that crashes and it goes up on its end and flips over. That's all CGI, and I remember thinking that looks unbelievable. Yeah, but and then I went back a couple of years ago, and it again looks fake. It's just funny how your eyes adapt. But then this goes back to like I think I said this in the Donkey Kong podcast. I remember playing Donkey Kong thinking, graphics can't get any better than this. And now look at the state. Look at the state of us.
The multi-man Mr. Smith fight in Matrix 2 also looks incredibly dated.
Oh, does it? Oh, yeah, interesting. Yeah. It's very funny, that sort of stuff. But yeah, like the only thing that I really was like, this looks daft, but I was still entertained by it. I think we've mentioned it already. Was at the end where the second in command guy gets shot out the window.
That just makes sense.
Ridiculously long arms. He looks like Slender Man as he's falling out the window.
What? I don't understand how that could have been intentional to look like that, or
they
why.
Talk about how he was made, and he's basically a foam puppet that they made.
Someone just did not get the arm.
They did not get the proportions right. They made a mess of that, but still a great movie. It's just fun. Like I say, like
it's just really fun.
My favourite thing about this era of movies is they made movies and they did things that they thought would be fun, rather than having any other ulterior motive to try and drive profit, or even, I don't know, they just, I mean, I'm sure there are movies around during this era. In fact, there definitely are movies around this era that people are trying to go for more serious topics. But yeah, there's a strain of these 1980s, 90s action movie that is just unlike anything else, and I love it. And RoboCop's another great example of that.
Yeah, I mean, we've just been talking about practical effects, and we didn't even mention when Emil gets fucking toxic waste all over, and he comes out looking like,
oh my god, that's so good. Then he gets run over and just explodes.
It gets eviscerated into like Ribena
He just starts melting.
by his own boss as well. Just runs him the fact. Oh, so good. Because what is it? Is he stuck in? Is he stuck in like a toxic
He drives his
thing?
weird
Yeah, that's it.
delivery truck into a toxic waste.
That's it. I knew I shouldn't have watched RoboCop 2 so soon before recording. So all my memories are of that now. But yeah, when he comes out, he's like, "Help!
Help
Oh
me!
man!" In the cinema, people were like losing their minds at that. We were all just like pissing ourselves and then when he gets run over, it's just a classic moment. So good.
I don't know if this is the point that you want to do this or not, but how well do you feel like the game evokes the RoboCopness of the IP?
Oh, I don't know how you can do it any better.
Yeah. I kind of in full agreement.
In every way, it matches it. Like even the bad ways, it's
Yeah.
on it.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about the budget of the game? Because the game heavily reuses environments. I encountered nothing on the same level as you, but I encountered a lot of like low level annoying bugs. The game doesn't really adapt beyond like the first hour. It is just sort of the same thing over and over again. So it's sort of asset light,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got a lot out of what they've done. It feels low budget to me, but in a way that fits the IP, and I was quite happy.
The films look low, but yeah. It's weird. It's like that Nacon, is it Nacon? Yeah, Taeon. Sorry, Taeon is the developer. Like they are almost like a go-to developer for if you want to make something from a B movie.
So what else have they done?
And the game will look B movie. They did that Terminator game that everyone really likes as well.
Oh yeah, okay.
Called Terminator Resistance.
People do quite like that game, yeah.
I would quite like to give a go to.
Yeah, it's a first-person shooter, right?
Stuff. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a PS5 version that came out quite recently, which I have.
Add it to the movie.
But I've not played that. But yeah, it's there are. We might as well talk about them now because we'll switch. We'll move over to the game now, and we can talk about some problems that we had. I showed you? Didn't? No, I don't know if I did.
I think I saw.
Well,
are you talking about the bugs you got? Because I think I saw a conversation you had on Twitter with KDB about them. Was that what you were talking about?
Well, yeah, I told you about that bug as well. So initially, I had the game on PS5. So there's a PSA for anybody out there. If you have if you have the option to play this either on PC or Xbox, play it on there. Because the PS5 version of this game has a bug in it where for every single camera cut in every single cutscene, all the models of the people in it become pixelated for a split second, and it is noticeable, and it is incredibly off-putting, and it ruins immersion in any of the scenes or enjoyment of any of the scenes. And I was thinking it was so bad at one point that I looked it up online and saw that people were saying this isn't an issue on Xbox. I've watched videos online, like it's just on PS5, and hopefully they patch it soon. And those people were saying this like 3 months ago, and I just thought, fuck this. Like they're not patching it clearly. So I had to. That was a Christmas present as well.
Yeah, that's such a shame.
I sold the Christmas present version on the PS5, the disc, and I just got it digitally on Xbox, and it's fine on Xbox. So just don't play this on PS5 because it's not fun.
I'm surprised PS5 is the one that's stinking the place up, because you'd think like in the way that the 360 era people were complaining about the PS3 versions of the game largely because the lead platform was Xbox. I would have thought it'd be I thought if anything it would be the Xbox that would be receiving the problems, but also on top of that, if the PlayStation 5 is having the problems, I would have assumed that the Xbox would have it, and even the PC, because the architecture these days is so similar. It's funny that it's just the PlayStation 5 that seems to be doing this, and I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Confusing.
We're not developers. No. We're not coders. We'll never know. But it's just an unexpected bug from one that I didn't think you would have, especially because I think it seems to have done fairly well. It seems to have been certainly received very well. This game.
Yeah, but it's just it's so prevalent, and it's so like in your face in every cutscene that I just don't understand how anybody reviewing it wouldn't have said, like, by the way, this is
Yeah, it's odd.
fucking horrible, and it needs fixing first. So, I was trying to see if I could find some sales figures. Well, apparently, it exceeded the publisher's expectations. It's their biggest ever launch. 435,000 players in its first 2 weeks after release.
It's got to be low budget then, or fairly low budget. I mean, what is low budget these days? Because I don't want to use like the Spider-Man budget is
just
astronomical. But then, like, I don't know, like what is that? 350 million? They think that game costs. Like, how much do you think this game costs? Like, under 50?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I can't find any figures on that right here, but I mean, they obviously, they paid for Peter Weller to do the voice. Probably doesn't cost a lot these days. I don't know how relevant he is anymore.
I don't even know how much, how expensive is the RoboCop IP these days either.
Yeah, probably not. They seem to be, because didn't this developer actually also make that terrible Rambo game that everybody fucking hates?
Oh, did they? Oh yeah, that game's awful.
The one that's like on rails shooter, basically, isn't it? Like,
reminds me of the Mega Drive Terminator game I remember playing as a kid.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they've absolutely turned their reputation around with the Terminator and RoboCop games.
Well done, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a problem. I had issues. I mean, the performance of this game, I think, is quite bad. I don't know about if you experience anything like I did, but at one point I had it where, I mean, a lot of the time, if loads of shit was going on, the frame rate would tank.
So I had one crash where there was like 4 explosions happened at the same time, and the game just hard crashed to desktop.
Okay.
Sorry, well, the main menu. It was on Xbox. I played.
I think mine basically did a similar thing where I had that as well, but it didn't crash. It just dropped itself to like 2 frames a second and would never come back from that. No matter, even though nothing was happening anymore and it was all finished, like it was, even if it was in cutscenes or whatever, it was just like it was done. It was just like still images, like a slideshow basically. So I had to quit that. And one thing as well, like although I do like the upgrades in the game and how you can do like these PCB boards where you're swapping in these parts, I think they're fucking broken. Like I don't actually think they work correctly at all.
Well, I see. My complaint is where I was expecting you go is I don't think, because I quite enjoy the way they've done that as well. In fact, I really enjoy it. It's actually a highlight for me, is messing about with those PCB boards. But I don't think they give you enough of the little nodules to add in so that you can really play with it. Like I went wild. It was like, say, I don't know if I'm getting these numbers right, but I found board 5.0, and then before the end of the game, I'd found like 3 subsequent boards. At the board 5.0, I went hard to try and get the best stats in that board I could, and then I never had enough nodules to fill out any of the subsequent boards, even by emptying 5.0, if that makes sense. Like,
okay,
it just never gave me enough. So, like, if you start like doing what I did, is going hard into putting them into the sort of randomizer tool.
Yeah,
if you go hard with that, you don't get enough, or at least I found I didn't get enough to continually replenish the ones that was using up, which I thought was a real shame.
Yeah, I was finding that I would have to try and keep at least one version of each of the types, like one direction of each. Otherwise, I would, as you say, be ending up with nothing. But so there was one board, and it said something like the bullets occasionally explode, causing explosive damage. Never once did I see that happen, ever. And I had an actual problem that I would meant to send you a video of, and I haven't done it yet, but I will show it to you, where I had a board that was set to have auto fire, like full auto.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what happened. I think I may have died. Yeah, I did die. It was in that, that bit where there's you can't shoot any of the barrels because it'll explode.
Yeah.
I died in there like 10 times.
I hated that section.
Until I started just throwing people. And even then I accidentally apparently threw a guy into a barrel and it blew up.
Do you know the problem is? So the problem I had with that is by that point I had an upgrade where the bullets would bounce off me. And it was bouncing off me and exploded in the barrels.
Yeah,
and I was like, you fucking bastard, okay, why have you done this?
But So every time I died in that section, when it would reload me again, my gun wasn't full auto anymore. It was burst fire. So I had to then reload the checkpoint, and it would then go full auto again.
That's weird.
So
that
I don't think that I don't necessarily
right there,
think that all those upgrades in those boards actually ever worked. Like I felt like a lot of the time, why are these? It's talking about my bullets splitting or something, and it's talking about, like I say, explosive rounds. I didn't see any of that. And then when it started doing this, like sometimes I'm full auto, sometimes I'm not, led me to think like, is it actually doing these?
Yeah, that's weird. That's interesting.
Upgrades, because a lot of times I'd be like, I've got like armor piercing 70%, and it's still going ting 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 off some dickhead's helmet. So it's just
that sucks.
are you doing the armor piercing or what here? Like, I feel like I'm really invested in trying my hardest to make these upgrades, and I'm enjoying what the boards are and the process, like you were.
It's so good.
I don't know if they actually did anything.
Yeah, that's that. I hope they did, and that was just like sort of a bad run you had. The thing I kept noticing was that the whatever was activating the voices did not sit in time with the bodies. So, like, for example, like, you know how it would bounce off their body, and then like I'd be standing there, and then the guy would like get his arm blown off, and then he'd shoot me, or something would happen, and I'd blow his head off, and he'd still be screaming about having no hand when he had no face, and he was dead.
Yeah, I did see that quite a few times as well. Yeah,
and the other thing is the bomb.
Like, you killed a guy in the face, his head is in half, and he's like, "I'm gonna get you for this, RoboCop."
Yeah.
No, you're not.
No, you are definitely not.
Unless I slip on half of your brain that's over in the corner over there, then no, you're not gonna get me for this.
The other real problem I had was in that exploding room. I could not figure out how I was meant to work out how to cut the wires in what order. Like, I assume I was meant to follow the line. Impossible to do.
Near enough time. Nowhere near enough time to do that.
So I just went pause, Google, which ones do I need to cut after like the fourth time I had died.
Trial and error, yeah.
Oh, I was like, fuck this. Because I was like, I think it wants me, you obviously had to do like highest voltage to lowest voltage. And I think it wants me to follow the wires.
Yeah.
It is impossible to follow these wires because this is just a fucking farted out flat JPEG on a screen that I cannot see.
I mean, what on two of them, one of the wires was a different color, so at least there was that. But that was not enough. No, that was awful. I've forgotten all about that. There was one more bug that I was going to talk about, and it was the one that I sent the video of you to you of, where I was doing one of the Ed 209 boss fights. It's the one when you're in like the fucking NRA convention or whatever it was, and I just ran up some stairs, and then he stood still.
He was confused.
And he just did nothing, and I just stood there holding the trigger down. Just that was it. And then I did that again later on in Detroit. He was stuck behind a police car in the distance, and I just stood there and pressed the button, and that was it. He didn't shoot me. He didn't react. He just died. Real shame, because that's like the big boss fights of the game, and yet twice.
Yeah, that sucks.
I was stood still.
Ed 209 did get a couple of hide-ins, even in the movie though as well. I forgot to mention how entertained I was when he fell down the stairs and just started screeching on his back.
Neither of us mentioned the fucking noises he makes when he roars like a lion or something. And he does it in the game, so that's good.
I think I text you. I did text you because I had my first encounter with Ed 209 before I had watched the movie, and I remember like going through that whole section, coming around the corner, and it's just like this, because like other than RoboCop, everything up to that point in that game or that I had experienced was just like standard 80s police, like the cars, the bullet armor they're wearing, the helmets, the guns they were using, everything except RoboCop was 80s as fuck. And then you go around the corner, and then there's just like this like Space Odyssey 2033 thing standing, making tiger noises at me. And I was like, what have I just walked into? And they're just standing there with their regular riot gear. And I'm like, you can invent robots, but you cannot give your policeman like a riot shield or a better gun.
I guess that's why they make all those little robot guys in the game. Just
constantly broken, though. I mean, like, there is an argument to say that RoboCop's broken the way he just like eviscerates criminals. Like, we spoke about this, like the end when the Detroit riots are going on. RoboCop deletes everything in sight. Like, there's no like, are you a criminal? It's like, no, you're just going.
No time for issuing tickets for parking in front of a fucking meter anymore, lads. It's full on annihilation.
And in the movie, the first criminal that RoboCop encounters, he ends up blowing up an entire petrol station.
It does.
It's like, calm down. Not to lunatic.
I mean, I suppose, yeah. I suppose the second film actually talking about that is quite like self-aware. They were saying in the film, like, you know, this guy does seem to kill every criminal that he comes across. Maybe we need to change his programming a little bit. To the point where he then gets bullied by our children's baseball team who call him fucking Peckerneck. Oh, that film is nasty, by the way. Like, the second film is.
I'm gonna have to watch it. In fact, I'm gonna
Yeah.
after we finish this podcast, I'm logging on to Amazon and getting it purchased. But
Yeah.
we're good. Yeah, one of my favorite missions in the game is when you've got to go looking for that lady's cat.
Oh, so good.
And then
That's
she
a
just
Hughes
ends
Hughes
up with like
Washington, isn't it?
criminals with no face in her house, and she is just so happy with the situation.
She says, "This is wonderful."
There's nothing wonderful about this. You should have PTSD.
Yeah, she was so annoyed about the noise they were making or whatever it was. She said, "Oh, people doing some bad stuff down in the basement."
That's it. It wasn't a cat. There just happened to be a cat. The cats in this game. Did you have the same problem with the cats?
What were they just like mutants?
Mangy mutants. It was like they had it was like they had a normal cat model, and then they just covered it in Triple H WWE game hair.
Oh, I don't know. I thought you were more talking about the faces.
No,
the faces just look like they put like some kind of squished texture in the middle of the
no.
3D
Like
model.
for me, they were like close to a sheep. So it was like bald black face, and then this just bouffant coming out the back of them.
Oh, yours were obviously balked.
Oh, I need to go.
That is brilliant.
I'll need to go on Twitch and see if I've got some examples of the cats, because and it was every cat I encountered was just terrifying looking, like I had some sort of disease.
Oh, that's wicked. Your cat code on your game got fucked.
Yeah, it did.
That's brilliant. What the fuck was the deal with that first guy, the first villain in the game, that Soot guy who's in that shitty punk band whose song plays so many
For
times
the
to the point
whole
where
game on repeat.
I'm actively looking for speakers to shoot to stop this from happening. There was one in a video shop, which I loved. I loved the fact that I got to go in like a VHS shop and a 1980s arcade, which is also in the second film.
Yeah.
And just wreck them completely. That's a great mission as well. Where you're helping that fucking.
I was about to
Pickles,
say,
who I
there's
tried to be
Pickles.
horrible to as much as I could because I don't like him. Where you're helping him pick out films.
So
by
I don't
scanning the thing.
I don't know if I'm hoping you've got notes, because I couldn't work out what was actually happening. So when I was upgrading my character, you know, we spoke about this. I went the peaceful route and just upgraded all my other stuff before I went to health and violence stuff. There's a bit where you upgrade your stats and it lowers the threshold for your characters. Do you know what that is? Because I guess at the end of the game, when you've got to go around the police station towards, well, I thought it was the end of the game. You go around and you speak to everyone. Can they get different outcomes then?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Okay.
Did
you get any bad ones then? Because I got all good ones.
Well, remember we discussed about who we voted for, right? You voted for, not voted for, but you helped the campaign of Cusack, and I helped Mills, right? So my thing where it said about Mills is very, very funny. So my reasoning that I said to you is that Cusack's presiding over an absolute shithole of a town.
Yes.
And to me, and if you've seen the second film as well, he's no saint.
He gets interviewed by the press at some point, and there is like corruption charges being leveled at him.
Yeah, that's in
the game. I think I see that, not in the movie.
Yeah. So I said to you, like, you know, and also OCP. I know they suck and they're evil or whatever, but I tried to play it like a bit of a dick for a while. It suckered me back in. I'm too nice at my core to actually be a bastard in games, which really annoys me. I'd like to do it one time.
I'm never bad in games. Can't do it.
Yeah, me neither. I couldn't be harsh to Washington. I couldn't be harsh to the reporter. I had to help her out as well. But
so that was one. Like once you've done that, once you've found that, I do have a reporter question for you.
Right, yeah, this Xbox app is dog shit loading this picture. Right, so when it talks about, you know, your mayoral choice, mine says, For when I got Mills elected, it said he offered his resignation on his very first day of office. According to reliable sources, Mills expressed, and I quote, "I did not sign up to run this dump." So all of that, he resigns after a day. That's brilliant.
Oh, so
What a
good.
fuck you to that. That's so good. The the mundane, silly, like pointless side shit that this game makes you do is like, I actually really like how stupid it is, like
Yeah,
signing the
fully
get
with you.
well cards, helping a
Oh,
guy pick out
I
films.
did text you
Like
about helping the guy pick up the get well card. There was a bit. I was like, "What the fuck am I doing? Just walking around. Will you sign this card?"
That's excellent. Oh, sorry, yeah, I was talking about Soot, wasn't I? The guy from the beginning in his shitty punk
Yes.
band, right? Why is his voice wrong? Like he's really well spoken for what he's supposed to be. I was thinking there was a bug at one point, you know, when you're at his gig, because he's like talking to each other while the song's still playing, and like he's
Oh,
supposed to be
that's something that
singing.
happened to me a lot. Is you'd be like walking by and someone's having a conversation, and you'd like press A to activate a chat, and everybody behind you is still talking over. I was like, "Shut up!" Anyway,
But
sorry.
But Soot later on does actually say, if it wasn't for RoboCop, nobody would have realized that we were playing a recording. So I was like, "Ah, that's fair enough."
Yeah, yeah. Oh
He's
yeah,
actually
yeah.
talking about
When you bust in on him when he's doing his live show.
yeah, and the music's still going, and he's like just getting annoyed, and it's still
Did
playing.
you
You're like,
fail
what the
that
fuck?
section the first time you did it? Because I did. Because I just started shooting everything that moved, and it's like, oh, you've killed civilians.
Yes.
Don't. Yeah.
He's
Okay.
running show.
Yeah.
Interrogating him was fucking amazing. Just picking up his guitars and just chucking them and like shooting the shit out of all of his stuff. That's brilliant. I just was throwing guitars in his face. As part of my because you couldn't shoot him. So I just thought I'm going to throw his
I
stuff
did.
in his
Yeah.
mouth.
I do agree though. Like the sort of silly side quests and stuff like the cat one. There's
Cat
one
one is great.
where you've just got to go looking for this wifey's kid.
Oh yeah.
There's like loads of silly that because that cat the cat one that's not a cat one that I'm going to forever call a cat one. That's an extra mission to help the guy be a good police officer, isn't it? You can like you're trying to
I
encourage
managed
him
to do that one.
do his training. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I was nasty. No, I kept saying to you like, oh, I want you to be horrible to, because you were getting so wound up. I watched your first stream and you were like, you hated him.
Yeah, I did.
It was really annoying you on the comms. And then the game kind of wants you to dislike him because he's been put there by OCP, but he is just a good kid, really. And I couldn't be harsh to him. What were we just talking about? I liked the side missions as well, where like you have to go like do a sort of a full on investigation, like the one with the
actor.
Yes, with that sunblock stuff, which again is in the second film.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it says something like there's an advert for it. The second film splices in lots of like sort of sarcastic, like what's the word? Satirical adverts in it. For like it really goes in on those. The first film kind of has that, but these ones are more like broadly funny. But yeah, they have an advert for that SPF 5000 or whatever it is, and it's like, yeah, continued use will give you skin cancer or something. It's fucking dumb. But there's another one as well where you've got to like investigate the murder of that Simon Page, and you go to that fucking woman's house, and she's got like a sex dungeon in her apartment. Got like handcuffs tied to the bed. I only missed out on 2 achievements in this game, actually.
Oh, I missed really loads, and I don't know what I was doing wrong because I was like trying to comb everything.
Yeah,
and I
was really disappointed in that.
Yeah,
I think I missed like 2. How do you find out your achievements on this fucking app? Achievements. There we go.
Yeah, I think because I saw again, friend of the show KDB had got 1,000 achievement points, and I was like, oh, it must be. And I don't know why I decided, because I've got no idea about his quality of game playing abilities, but I was just like, oh, it must be doable. Yeah. And then I started, and I just must have missed too many things, annoyingly.
The only 2 I missed is I missed one where I have to find a PCB in the secret area of the steel mill. Didn't know there was a secret area. And then the other one is...
Oh, I didn't find the secret area of the arcade. There's like a secret room in the arcade, apparently. It was like, there's an achievement, it's like, find the secret room in the arcade. Didn't get that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, you had to like open a grate. You had to. I remember seeing that, like when I first walked in, I was like, "How the hell do I get in there?" And then work that out. The other one was, you know, when you got all those, you go to that old factory and there's all those robots that he's like testing on you. You've got to kill all them in under 10 minutes. I didn't do that apparently.
Oh no, I didn't do that either.
That's it. I only missed those two. I was gutted.
Well done.
I probably would play this game again, to be fair, at some point. It is. I had a lot of fun.
Yes, I did, and I think I again like. I want to
It
be
does go on a lot.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I enjoyed this game, and I like had a great time with it. If I'm trying to be like stick a critic's hat on it, I do feel like it overstayed its welcome somewhat. And like I was saying, like I don't think the gameplay really develops at all throughout the whole game. It's the same thing. Like within the first hour, if you play an hour of this game, you know if you're going to like it or not, because it is not going to change at all for the rest of the time. So yeah, by the end of it, I was like, this is just going and going and going. So I could have done with it being ever so slightly shorter. But again, like the way it sort of treats the source material is so reverential. Like I'm not sure if I'm thinking about where I want to cut stuff. I would if I'm being brutal, I maybe would cut that bit where you got the boss stuck, because that bit just feels sort of superfluous beyond the. It sort of introduces the final boss to you. I don't know. Did you think it was too long? Were you quite happy with the length?
I can't actually remember how long it. Oh, I can find out, can't I?
I think I googled it and it was like 10. No, maybe 18 hours.
Because you're supposed to
But
be.
How long to beat is usually what I check, and I did check it, and I can't remember now what it is.
I played this game for 23 hours. That's a lot. That is.
Could have done
much.
with it being a 15-hour game.
Yeah, I agree with that, because as you say, that there is very little variation in the gameplay. Really, it's kind of like you're going through silly situations or interesting little tidbits of nonsense, and you're just destroying people.
And it brings you back to a lot of places often as well. And then there's like the bit that's like the final section of the first movie. It's like the train yard. I'm going to keep calling it the train yard. I don't know what it's called.
Sawmill.
Yeah, the sawmill. You got to go all the way through it and then all the way back. And then there's
a lot of the time
it
did make you have to walk all the way through without giving you a shortcut.
And
a couple of times it did. I think you missed one of the shortcuts.
Oh, did I? Okay. And
you didn't have the engineering level high enough to make that train smash through those gates.
Did not have the engineering high enough, yeah.
Because that took out a lot of that backtracking there. But yeah, you're right. 23 hours is too long. But the fundamental, like the gore and the violence and the feel of the weapons and the feel of how RoboCop plays, because I know they obviously tried to make that. What did they? There's a quote on there on the Wikipedia. Where they were saying that they wanted to get the balance of RoboCop's movements correct, and that was their biggest challenge. He said he's kind of slow and this is the game director Piotr Letocha butchered that name. He's kind of slow and tankish, and we need him to be true to the law, but he also cannot be super slow and super heavy.
That was one thing I was pleasantly surprised about the game, in that, like, again, to reiterate, RoboCop is not the most mobile of protagonists, and they've made a game that is ostensibly quite slow and plodding, incredibly entertaining to play. Yes. And I guess that's obviously to its credit, and I think to me anyway, that's chiefly because using the weapons is so fun, and the way you can play with the handgun is so fun, and the gore and the violence, and just how responsive the weapons.
People.
I think that's why, and being able to like pick stuff up and throw it and interact with the environments in certain ways and stuff like that. But very impressive that they gave what is quite a slow and plodding character a lot of personality and a lot of fun. Like, especially in an era, I think I said this to you offline, especially in an era when the modern first-person shooter is all about movement and is all about pace and is all about covering ground quickly and in inventive ways, whether that's running at walls and stuff like that. You're never going to do that with RoboCop if you're going to stay true to RoboCop, but yet they've still created a fun, entertaining and engaging game that I very much had a great time with. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, you can bowl through there, sort of taking damage and not really paying all that much attention to it for most of the firefights that you get into. You may have to heal up afterwards, But I guess they definitely made him so he's not invincible, but he's sturdy enough that you can handle being that slow. And then they give you the upgrades later on, like the dash move is quite handy, and you can get other things you can upgrade so that like
Kept
the
forgetting to
cooldown
use
on the
those
dash
things.
is
Yeah.
good. There's a slow mo you can get as well, and you can upgrade that so that every time you kill somebody in slow mo, it prolongs the slow mo that you're
Okay.
using. So and you've got a like a sort of flash grenade kind of mechanic as well. I can't remember exactly. I can't remember what the word for it was, but
I
you
know what you
press
mean.
down on
Yeah.
it and he does that. Yeah, but that you can also upgrade that later on so that it actually kills people as well. So they give you enough powers to make it
Yeah.
not an issue that he can't run effectively. The only problem then is, as you said earlier, like if you're backtracking, that's when it becomes like, oh, for fuck's sake, can I just sprint or fast travel, please?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to think
What do you think to the story?
it's good enough. I mean, I was interested in it. I was engaged in it. It's not going to be one that I'll be able to tell you all about in 6 months' time. It's not sticking with me, but it was enough to make me engage in the world and be interested to progress things and find out what happened next. I think I was more interested in the sort of side characters and the sort of NPCs that you would interact with along the way and what was happening to them more than I
Yeah.
was the overarching story. I ended up quite liking Lewis a lot.
She is very likable in the films as well, I think.
Yeah. I ended up
It's quite
liking.
progressive, actually, for a late 80s film to have black mayors, black head of police,
Yeah.
female companions to the male lead who's not a love interest. Like, they did all right.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm not sure I picked up what it was putting down necessarily. So I was looking around at certain bits, and the sort of the main bad guy is meant to be related to someone.
So one of Clarence's gang members who got killed in the first film.
Right,
He's
that
the
went over
brother
my
of
head
him.
entirely. I must have missed that.
Yeah, I think I remember them saying about it, but I don't remember the character in the first film being called Antonovsky. I don't remember any one of those. It's Emil. Oh, wait! He's the brother of the guy who gets fucking melted.
Oh, is he? Fantastic.
Yeah.
He's the best one.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I can see why he's so upset. Although RoboCop didn't run him over or crash that car. I mean, he did shoot the thing that crashed, but
Yeah.
Emil did most of that himself, or Clarence did it. I didn't like it. I really hated when they called him the new guy for so long in the game. That just felt so fucking tacky. Like the new guy in town. Are you joking? The new fucking kid on the block. What is this mental shit? But he was pretty good. I mean, he was very standard
It was
scene
obvious.
chewing,
Yeah.
weirdly kind of smartly dressed and well spoken, like very kind of looked a little bit like Alan Rickman from Die Hard. But a lot of it, like
You're right. He was very Alan Rickman from Die Hard. That was great. That's a great point.
Yeah, a lot of it didn't like break the mold of what the RoboCop general plots are, but it followed enough of them to kind of feel correct. It's not like it's done anything that it's not like we're coming on to Batman Arkham series after this, where they really kind of had their own take on Batman and they really created this own
redefined
universe.
hand-to-hand combat and
Yeah, but the way they told that story just felt like so like this is Arkham. Like the writers done a hell of a job with this. Like it feels distinctly this.
That's every
like,
bit as
part
good
of
a
the
Batman
universe.
story as many of the comics. That game.
Yeah, I mean this is arguably as good as the RoboCop stories because they're not necessarily all that complex.
Certainly as
but
violent as well. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's just very similar. You've got RoboCop's malfunctioning. He's thinking about he keeps getting memories of his wife while he's getting sort of analyzed by people. That's kind of similar to the second film a little bit. You've got a gang lord trying to deal with the city being, I guess, renovated. So he's got ulterior motives. He's got ties to OCP. Who's going to be backstabbing everybody. And then you've got a guy getting his brain stuck in a fucking robot by the end and going insane. And then RoboCop has to fight and kill it. So that's very the second film.
Which is funny because I think the first death is very the death of the new guy is very the first film, and it like there's this massive build up to this this event, and you're like through that whole section where you're getting like wave after wave of enemies coming at you, like, right, this is building towards something.
Yeah, he just keeps kind of running away every
yeah, and then you counter at the end. Like RoboCop basically just shoots his hand off, then shoots him off the side of a building, and then it's over. And I was like, oh, that is anticlimactic in a way that I'm really down with. I really, really like it. Like it, builds you up so you're expecting something, i.e., a big boss fight at the end. It gives you something completely different. I love that. And then
that is, because realistically, what's he gonna offer as resistance? He's a man.
Mm-hmm.
He's fighting a losing battle from the start.
Yeah,
as they all have. Like in the first film with Clarence as well. When RoboCop gets him, he's like reading his Miranda rights by throwing him through walls over and over again.
We've got obviously, like I say, we've got Batman coming up. It's kind of how I wish the first Batman Arkham Asylum had finished. In that, like,
oh, for fuck's sake, yeah.
When Batman encounters a Joker, I wish that Batman had just beat the shit out of him, and that was it. But no, they have to contrive this way to give you a final boss, which this game does as well.
But it fits within the lore, at least.
But it fits within the lore, yeah. Like that's an example of this is how it done well, and in the game we've got coming, although it's probably a better game, the ending of it is probably slightly weaker, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that Joker fight at the end of the, next game.
No, it's such a letdown of such a quality game. Like, everything else works so well apart from that, and it goes back to we come across it from time to time about whether final boss fights and boss fights in general are necessary in games. And I think,
we did talk about that recently, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think RoboCop uses boss fights well.
They were all very logical, and they were all, like I said, within the lore of RoboCop. You got the RoboCop 2s, you got the Ed 209s. You know, they all make sense of why they would be tough, and they're meant to be tough because RoboCop's already faced them as sort of overwhelming adversaries in the films before, so they made sense. And then, as you said, they treat the normal humans like exactly what they are, just fleshy punching bags. The Batman Arkham Origins, the one that no one likes, and the one that
I've just bought that on Steam, so you've got that, by the way. It was on sale for £3, so I was like, oh, I've got to get that because I've never played that.
Oh, have you not?
No. That
does some boss fights very, very well. Especially, it has quite a lot of interactions with the Joker where Batman does just beat the fuck out of him, and you get the satisfaction of just pushing the punch button and smashing him in the face. Underrated. I think that game is, now that they sorted it all out after the launch problems. So it's
funny. That's
merit.
Yeah. Actually, we'll come back to that when we do the podcast. I was about to go on a Batman tirade, but we'll talk about that later. This is a very, very good game. It feels like a solid 7.8 out of 10 to me.
Yeah, it's a high 7, that's for sure. Yeah, it's a lot of binary domain that I think about when I play this game. You know, shooting lots of robots and loving it off. The story's a bit wacky. The acting's probably a little bit shit. The story's nothing crazy.
I've been trying to sort of branch my video game podcast listening out a bit, but rather than all this sort of YouTube-y personality-led stuff, I've been looking more for like stuff that gives you news, and we'll talk about the sort of goings on in the industry. And the ones I've found are actually quite good, but a lot of the talk has obviously been about layoffs, and surrounding the layoffs has been discussions about how video game costs are spiraling out of control, and there's going to have to be a sort of rebalancing of the cost versus the cost of games. I think the existence of RoboCop is an example of a game that can be made on a tight budget and still be fucking good. The games do not have to obviously there are games that cost £350 million and do very well and are very, very good, and they show the money that has been put into them in the way that a RoboCop never will. RoboCop, to me, been thinking about this as been driving back and forth to the gym, is almost like feels to me anyway like a sort of triumphant return of the B game in a way that is fun and engaging. And it's like, no, this is a game I really want to play. A bit like Star Wars The Force Unleashed is another example of sort of the latter era of the 360, when those games were about. It feels like a game that has been made to a low budget and has done well within its remit and shows to me that games don't have to cost the earth to be fun.
Absolutely. Don't need to be filled with, busy work. Although, as we have said, this game is a bit too long.
It is a bit too long.
It's still linear for most of it.
I never felt busy work though, other than at the time.
So they make the busy work funny.
They made it funny, yeah.
Why would RoboCop be doing this? That's what's funny about it. It's
Yeah.
like how ludicrous you are to be in that situation. As
You're this robotic, you're this like programmed robotic man going around getting someone to sign a card.
Chasing a cat under a piano or whatever.
Exactly. Like you're finding it in a burn, like the guy refusing to leave his burning building, so you've got to walk around and find a cat on top of a closet and stuff like that.
In night vision, yeah.
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 Yeah, it's a great game.
I burnt the shit out of that woman that you had to carry out of the fire.
Oh, I did as well. I just walked her straight to the fire.
All of her knees and elbows and stuff all the way out. I can take all this fire.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Which is funny because his chin was out, didn't get burnt.
Absolutely.
Do you think RoboCop still has to shave?
No, and he keeps walking through fire, doesn't he? He just gives himself the old Turkish
stuff.
Yeah. Like walking through a burning building.
Pre-RoboCop man, I've blank on his name.
Peter Weller. Or Alex Murphy, if you're talking about the actual character's name.
Alex Murphy, full head of hair.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to know about RoboCop's hygiene regime. Does he need to shave? Does he need a haircut? Like, does someone have to like shave that bonds of his that he's got left, or is that like
is there
skin?
Any follicle on there?
Yeah, or is it just like skin squeezed over, like and like tied back? Will the
He's still got teeth? Does he have to brush his teeth?
Yeah, does he have to brush? Well, no, because he eats baby food, so yeah, surely.
Oh yeah.
And
because that guy eats it in the film, doesn't he?
He must have to brush his teeth. You're right. Who's doing this, and when's he doing this? Is the only sort of biological part of RoboCop the head?
Like, well, I think it's the brain as well. By the names of RoboCop too, it's also like his spine and his nervous system.
Can he sweat? Does he need to wear deodorant? Does he need to wash?
Yeah, like if he's like when we were doing all those wires incorrectly, was his top lip perspiring?
Yeah. I would like to see a RoboCop with a moustache.
Like his yeah, as he's getting towards retirement, he's getting really burnt out on police work.
Yeah,
just like getting like dishevelled 5 o'clock shadow every day or whatever.
Yeah, will he get old and die? Like, will he get like a wrinkly chin?
In the second film, when they turn this other guy into RoboCop 2, she says like, how would you like a shot at immortality? So I'm assuming no.
If he eats, he must have a stomach.
Unless it's just to. Yeah, it must do. Yeah, because you can't just absorb food into your brain, and
which means he's got a blood supply, which means he must
definitely does have that.
So he must breathe.
Yeah.
Why was he not coughing when he was in the fire?
Maybe he's
got an oxygen
got
tank.
Organs in there, like under all of his stuff. Oh, maybe he doesn't. You watch the second film, and then you'll know more about what's inside that suit.
What's inside that suit?
Take apart. But there's definitely blood supply in there somehow. I don't think they really thought it through very much. Seems like one of those things that just kind of like, we'll figure it out as we go along.
Yeah, we're straying into overthinking territory. He's going the Cliffy B approach. We'll just do this and then we'll figure it out as we go when it comes to Gears of War.
Isn't it in? I think is it in the film Looper, which is like a time travel.
Fuck me, I haven't thought about Looper since I saw Looper.
I'm pretty sure there's a moment where
it's got a Fight Club guy in it, right? Looper. If I made that up.
What, Ed Norton?
Yeah. Did I make that up?
Yeah. Maybe, but it's definitely got Joseph Gordon-Levitt and it's got Bruce Willis in it. And there's a part in they're in like a diner talking about how all of the stuff actually works, and then Bruce Willis basically just says something like, "If I was to explain it to you, you wouldn't understand it, so don't worry about it. Like, just accept that it's like this." Like, so the writers of the film just couldn't even be fucked to figure out how logically any of it would work, because it wouldn't work because time travel is not logically possible. So they were just like, don't worry about it. It just works. So yeah, I feel like maybe RoboCop's got a little bit of that on the go. Which is like, he's just a cyborg. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely. Fully aware there's going to be someone listening to this podcast saying you're overthinking it. And Yes, I am, and I enjoy doing that. In the same way that I enjoy positing the theory that Super Mario. Oh, not Wonder. That's the one we just played. What's the one on the Switch called? Super Mario
Odyssey. Oh, the
Odyssey
cap.
is the first mainline Mario game where Mario isn't the main character because Mario's dead.
Yeah, he is dead. Yeah, he's
The cap
possessed by a
controls him.
hat.
Yeah, you are the cap in that game.
Where does so what happens to Mario when he's something
Where
else?
is he when the cap is doing? I
Yeah.
assume his corpse is just rotting on the
We're
ground.
not seeing it because it's off camera, but yeah, it just like flops to the ground again, naked as the day he was killed. And yeah, I'm a T-Rex, and there's just a corpse over in the corner, and then the hat just like slicks back to the corpse again, picks him up. Yeah, did you have fun being that ice cream? Yeah, I'm back now.
I love that. Yeah, so people that have got illegal versions of that game install a mod that makes him slowly decompose as the game goes on. So you've got like 48 hours to do it before rigor mortis sets in, or however long it sets in.
It's just fucking yellow at the end. Oh man,
this looks like a Dark Souls, one of my Dark Souls characters.
Oh yeah, yeah, because they kind of stopped doing that. But yeah, in the originals, you'd get more hollow, wouldn't you?
Yeah. This might be a fun game. I'm going to pick a random game at the end of each podcast episode, and we're going to try and if you were going to, that's what I'm going to call the game, because that's a nice succinct name. If we were going to do this type of podcast for a Dark Souls game, what movie would you attach?
Oh my Christ.
Because it's got to be confusing narrative, I guess. Probably quite Japanese, evocative visuals. I mean,
it does seem quite
graphic novel,
by, like, medieval fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wondered if like
Lord of the Rings games.
How would you think about not a movie but Berserk?
Oh, good point. Yeah, I love Berserk.
There's an anime for that. Maybe that's
there is horrible anime. I love it. But oh my god, it is horrible. If you want to see man on man rape, that's the
one for you.
Or maybe that's just in the manga, actually. It might just be in the manga. The anime's still horrible. Like, really horrible.
Ugh.
Just nasty shit. Great, though.
Is the anime good? Is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah. Yeah, really good.
Pleasantly surprised. But the one I was pleasantly surprised, Death Note. I enjoyed the
movie.
movie.
Death Note ruled.
Yeah.
Oh, the movie, yeah.
I'm
wait,
sure,
which one? Which one?
Don't know.
The Western one.
I am fully accepted that I think I'm in the minority here, and the one I liked was the de facto bad one. I think it's the Western one I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, the Japanese Death Note films are good, but yeah, I haven't seen the. Was that a Netflix thing?
Hadn't read the movie. Hadn't read the book or the graphic novel. Hadn't seen the Japanese version of the movie. My first interaction with Death Note was, I think, the Western movie, and I thought it was all right. Very much enjoyed it.
It was you mean the? No, wait, hang on. TV series.
Let me tell you. Let me Google it, and I'll tell you exactly.
2017. That's the one. The one with 4.7 on IMDb.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
That is the Western one. Yeah.
Death Note movie.
Got Willem Dafoe. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Totally enjoyable for me.
The Japanese movie. On IMDb,
I knew it was
7.5.
Yeah, well, while I was watching it, I was like,
wicked.
People aren't going to like this, but I don't care. Having a good old time.
I wonder what's so bad about it. I need to figure out. I mean, what game would you play with that? You could go the other way around, couldn't you? Yeah.
For Death Note.
Probably like fucking what's that? The school thing.
Oh, Danganronpa. That's it. You've nailed that. That's the one. Did you ever watch that TV show, that Korean TV show I was trying to get you to watch for a while? It's on Netflix. Korean TV, and it's basically
Alice in the Borderland, is it?
Alice in Borderlands. Did you ever watch that?
No, it's on my list though. I'm gonna watch it. I thought it was Japanese.
Yeah, you're right. It's Japanese because it's set in Tokyo. Yes. I see. Is there a season 3 of that coming?
That's got an even higher rating than Death Note.
Potential release date? Do we have one? Alice in Borderlands. If you're a fan, or if you watched, what was that thing on Netflix that was massive for a brief period of time? Squid Game. If you like Squid Game and you wanted more of that type of thing, Alice in Borderlands is good. Season 1's far better than season 2. Right, season 3 has been confirmed by Netflix, which is definitely a good thing after the season 2 finale. Kind of don't remember it. Need to watch that again. Christmas 2024. There we go. So you've got to 2024 to get yourself through 2 seasons.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely getting to that at some point because you're not the only person who's told me that's good. While we're talking about television, because it's that kind of a show, Rach and I just finished the first season of Barry. In fact, we're into the second season.
Never, I've heard of that.
Bit of
a comedy.
It's a black comedy, yeah, but also kind of a thriller as well.
What's it on? How would I watch it?
I'm watching it on Sky.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, you're right. Now premium subscription. It's £1.89 per episode on Prime, £1.89 per episode on Apple TV.
Is it?
£1.99 on YouTube. Google Play Movies, £1.99. Now premium subscription.
Yeah, we're just watching it on Sky.
I will add Barry season 1 trailer to my watch later and have a look at that.
It's not even a slow burner, but it is. It takes a while to get into it.
I need a TV show
because it's slow, and the episodes are only half an hour, which is good.
That's perfect.
There's 2 or 3, and then it gets to like shit starts going down halfway through, and then it's because it does start off a little bit too all in on the funny, and it's not always a land with that. And then once the thriller aspect starts to kick in, it actually gets quite gripping, and I think it's supposed to only get better. So it's got Bill Hader in it, which he's won an Emmy for one of the episodes.
Oh, brilliant!
The best episode as well.
Yeah, Annie and I were watching something on Paramount Plus that I've totally forgotten the name of, and I hard lost interest in it, so we've stopped watching that. So
we started trying to watch Black, and then is it Black? No, Dark, and I just couldn't be asked with
Dark. I'm trying to see what it is that I lost interest in. Oh, Yellowstone, and I just did not like it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Annie and I are in need of a TV show, so Barry might be the one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of murdering in it. So if Annie's into that kind of thing,
Annie is very much into that. There's a TV show she watches basically on repeat. Is it Killing Eve?
Oh yeah,
which is a lot of murdering and weirdos. So yeah, she might.
Have you watched Giri Hadji yet?
No.
Oh, watch that instead.
How do you spell that?
Giri, and then I think it's like a / Hadji. I might be yeah. Yeah, Giri / Hadji.
Drama series. There we go. Oh, it's in. It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's give that a go.
It was initially on the BBC, but it's only 1 season.
Oh, perfect.
Only 8 episodes. Oh, it's so good.
I can get myself through that. I'm gonna have to go see. I think I'm gonna have to go see June 2.
I need to watch June 1. I've got that on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I'm going to hopefully try and see that on Sunday. So I've got till Sunday to watch the first one again because I've forgotten
June 2 is supposed to be according to Total Film, masterpiece.
Well, we'll see because people thought really highly of the first one.
Did they? I thought people thought it was quite slow.
Well, it definitely is, and I thought
maybe that's your opinion that I'm remembering.
Yeah, so maybe my opinion of it would be it is almost immaculately shot and constructed film without much substance to make me care about what's happening in the world. Okay. Which is a shame because the actual book is meant to be one of the best fantasy novels ever, sort of sci-fi, high fantasy novels ever written. But yeah, the movie as a visual spectacle, perhaps a bit like Avatar, even though I hate Avatar.
Me too.
is just an absolute visual feast. They just did not fill it with things that I wanted to care about. Would be my feeling on it. I reserve the right to adjust that opinion after I've watched it again this week. But yeah, that would be my feeling of it.
So yeah, not any time soon are we going to be doing Dune 2 plus the fucking Amiga Dune 2 or whatever it was. There's two different Dune games, isn't there? The Mega Drive one as well.
Yeah, there's just released one as well. It's like a sort of Command and Conquer type game where you're.
Did they?
Yeah. But if we ever play a Command and Conquer type game, I kind of would rather play the Starship Troopers one that came out fairly recently. So maybe that's the one. But again, is there any more, Alex, or are we going to draw this to a close?
I don't think I've got anything else to say about RoboCop other than it's just awesome.
My notes here, yeah, it's just an awesome game. We've covered your bugs. Don't really have much to say about the audio. The weapons we've covered. The weapons actually are very, very good. They do a good job of sort of recreating the weapons in the game. I very much enjoyed because by the time I finished the game, I'd seen the movie. That massive it's like explosion sniper rifle that you get to use towards the end of the game.
Yeah,
very, very fun.
I enjoyed the grenade launcher, although I only basically got that at the part where you're in the fucking place you can't shoot any of the barrels, so that was a real annoyance. I had to throw it on the ground. They did the pistol such justice in this
so
game.
Much fun.
What a great pistol, up there for the best pistol ever.
Oh,
it's knocking on Halo's door for sure.
It's a highlight of the game. Like, it's a standout. I was going to call it a character. It's not that, but it's like a centerpiece of the game to me. And the game would not be nearly as good as it is if that pistol wasn't there. If they had just given you a normal gun, not nearly as good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And combine that with his cool little like scanning, aiming thing. It's just great fun. The slow-mo. But yeah, if ever I was using like another gun, it would normally just be because I felt like obliged to. Like, oh, here's another gun I haven't actually picked up. Probably not going to use it because the pistol's so good.
Yeah.
But I'll give this AK-47 or whatever it is a run. And then, it's not as good. Back it goes. I got the shotgun most of the times I could, not the pump action one, but the proper one, like the riot shotgun sort of thing that you get later on in the game when you're doing the prison break. I enjoyed that prison break level.
That prison break sequence was excellent. We didn't touch on that at all. That was really good fun. Yeah, really good. That felt fun, and the way they dripped into, like, because that's the first time you encounter sort of the mercenaries, isn't it? The way they dripped them in. Because you see them moving about the prison, but you can't quite get to them or interact with them beforehand. That was done really, really well. Yeah,
I like how you could kind of make sort of not secret paths, but you could take alternative routes through areas by breaching through walls and stuff instead of just going through doors. And I enjoyed the breaching through the doors as well. Even though half the time I never managed to save all the hostages. I would always see somebody. The hostage takers are always fucking ruthless. They will give you a few seconds where they're going to turn and pump bullets into the face of anybody on their knees. They don't even care about the fact that RoboCop is definitely going to kill them afterwards.
There was a bit during the Detroit riots where you'll get like calls in from people that have been like are getting shit happened. So many of those resulted in one of those hostage sequences that just people get killed. So there's the journalists. I don't know. You got to go and drop off some tapes from her flat after you pick them up.
Oh yeah.
And you go to it's not the laundrette, but it's like the convenience store, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, stick the stuff through the back." He got his face exploded in my game.
I saved him.
Oh, did you? I did not save him. Nobody
and I
cared.
Saved the video store guy.
I think I saved the video store guy. There was a couple of them, but yeah, I think he was the one I messed up on.
You know what? Actually, I will add to a slight negative where it feels like the stuff you pumped all your points into at the beginning did not feel that relevant as the game wore on. No. Like once you've stopped going around Detroit in the first dark part, maybe a bit the second one. When was a dialogue choice actually that necessary? Like I remember you had to talk to Ben in the chop shop, and you had to talk to those two guys outside the convenience store, whatever it was, where they're making too much noise with their shit rock song.
Well, the thing is, you seem to have got the sort of so-called good endings of all the characters without bothering with that stuff.
Yeah, Well,
I'm trying to think
yeah.
what
I guess
happened.
I did
So
enough to
yeah, you see, you sort of did,
appease
because
everybody.
in my game, what it was telling me was the empathetic choice, i.e., the good choice. So it was basically telling me what the correct answer would be as I was playing along.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like the journalist leaves to go and work for a local news station because she wants to refine herself and do proper journalism. The drug addict decides that it's fun to help people and decides to go and clean himself up.
Did he go work at a movie theater for you? That's what he did for me. He worked at a cinema.
I don't think so. I think
He was
I
like
don't.
yeah, he just worked at a cinema so he could talk to people about films all the time and be around films. He got a job.
Maybe. Yeah, he certainly sorted himself out.
Ulysses was decided I helped him or something become a policeman, and
He
I
ended up
I
becoming a
helped
policeman again. Yeah,
well.
decided to reapply because he got made
That's
redundant.
it. Yeah. He reapplied. That's it.
And
So yeah, I
then
didn't need those, but I
you didn't need
didn't
them.
find a lot of dialogue choices, or maybe because I didn't see them. But I certainly don't remember. Like I remember the first time on the PS5 version before I fucking binned it.
Yeah,
The first one thing I will actually segue quickly in here is like I do like how the dynamic. I do like how like some of the things that would arise as you were just sort of walking around the city. It felt like at times the game was really good at leading you dynamically towards that kind of thing happening. Like you'd go somewhere, like it say like in the police station, oh, you need to go down to somewhere, and on the way it would like put in things
yeah.
that you're going to get
Good point.
distracted
Yeah.
by, or you do a mission, or you do like a side mission, you turn around and then something would start happening behind you that as a result of that, like you didn't actually have to go out of your way to find that extra content. It was all kind of like laid out for you, and you could interact with it if you wanted to or not. But there's one like right at the beginning of the Detroit thing where you walk over and there's a guy, like I said, there's two dudes hanging outside the convenience store playing music, and the owner's trying to get him to leave. On the PS5 version, before I binned it, I had an option because of one of my stats being high enough. I was able to say something to make I had an extra dialogue option. I never saw that ever again for the rest of the on the Xbox.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I didn't see it once. You may have seen more of it because you had the correct dialogue option. Maybe it gave you an extra one on top of it.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But
I was going. But then the point is, it ultimately made no difference.
No, I don't think it did, and I don't think they probably would have used it enough. It's a nice idea, kind of bringing that sort of Fallout element of dialogue choices based on your stats. So, like, I'm always up for things like that. If you can kind of
absolutely
min max into something, but because so early on in that sawmill, which is like the second part of the game, when you've got all those mines in the water that you cannot see on your scanner, and there's snipers that I had no. I mean, you had a sniper.
You saved my life there. Yeah, you absolutely saved me because I knew it was all coming. So like, when there was the bit with the underwater mines, it's like underwater mines. So I just picked up I picked up like a bin, this big massive metal dumpster, and just threw it across the water, and it just blew them all up because I knew they were there. And then I obviously picked up a sniper rifle, anticipating that bit coming.
Yeah, because I was just trying to pistol those snipers, and I basically had 20 health that would have to regenerate while I stood behind a turned over car, and then I'd walk out and get shot by a sniper, and it would go back down to 1, and I'd have to go stand and wait for it to go to 20 again. So I got my ass kicked so much at that point. I was just putting it all in armor and combat and vitality. So I never really had any of the other ones until later in the game. But then I didn't see any dialogue options because of that ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd need to look into it more, really. Probably should have done that before the show.
The thing is, I think like what we're saying though, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like you got pretty sure you got all the same endings as I did without those stats. So you're either very lucky. I mean, because I was often I felt okay about them because there was bits where I obviously hadn't watched the movie, and I just became a bit confused about what I was meant to choose. So like the one that I was glad of it was when you walk into the OCP building and the journalist is there, and she asks you to go and she asks you to go and steal stuff for her, and go and mess up like the cameras and things like that. In my head, I was like, I'm not sure RoboCop would do that. But the game kept telling me that was the right thing to do, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll just go to it. But yeah, like that didn't seem to fit with RoboCop. I mean, like he's a man that is, or a thing that is literally built to uphold the law, to quote another 80s, 90s movie franchise. But you're doing the exact opposite there. That's almost like a very human thing to do. But also the game does lean into that. It's constantly, when you're getting your psychiatric appointments, getting asked questions about your human side versus your machine side, and which one is more prevalent, I guess. So I guess it makes sense within the game context. But yeah, I was a little bit confused by that as it was unfolding, if it wasn't for the prompts it was giving me.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for like skill check guides online to kind of see if there's anything.
And nobody cares.
No one seems to have anything about it. A lot of people are trying to say like, what are the best stats to upgrade? So you've got one site, The Gamer, saying vitality. Then, the top one is deduction, combat, engineering, armor, focus, vitality, and then somebody else is saying focus is first, then armor, then deduction, then scanning, then engineering.
What does deduction give you?
That's what you did, I think, isn't it?
I think that's what would have been what I went all in on. Yeah, it's like the bottom two I went all in on.
What's focus do? Oh, that's the slow motion thing.
Basically didn't use that. Whenever it went slow motion in my game, it was by complete accident. I didn't know how I did it.
Throwing a bike at a biker. It's one of my favorite things to do is try and time it perfectly so that when a biker comes back, I'm going to chuck another bike at him and blow
right off his face.
Deduction. Oh, I had deduction for the enhanced map. That I really wanted that as quickly as possible.
That was good, yeah, because I think I missed stuff early game because I didn't have that.
And it gets you, that gets you more experience points. So it's not going to be that. Then scanning, I thought was good because especially with the instant scanner, where you could you scan one and it shows you every enemy on screen at once. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember which one you had. Oh, here we go. Here's a list of all of them. Psychology is the one you had.
Yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, that's the one that gives you the dialogue choices. I guess there's multiple ways to try and play it, but considering I just kind of did it on gut instinct and got,
I'm not convinced they're different enough. The only thing I would be tempted to do is if there's a new Game Plus mode, I would be quite. If I ever played it again, it would be to just try and max out all the stats, I guess. Because I didn't do it by the end. And try and get more of those collectibles because I enjoyed the gun mod stuff. But like I said, it didn't give me enough of that to really feel like I got the benefit of it.
Yeah.
I had a gun I really liked. I got a new board, so I emptied the board and tried to put it all in the new board. Didn't have enough to fill the board, so I tried to put it back and couldn't get it back in the right order that I had before, so my gun was never as good as I had it. Yeah, that was
yeah. Some of the ones that just like, oh, here's a bonus, like one of those yellow stats that you could use for to do something fun, but you have to take the hit of a red one on this one. Well, I'm not going to use the board then.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I have to be.
The reds were harsh penalties.
Yeah.
There's ones that were like 40%. And so I was like, well, this makes the board unusable if I can't avoid that.
Yeah. If I can't avoid every red one, I'm just not going to bother. No. I wonder how many of those there are. Because I remember I was up to like 5.2, and then I found a 5.0 that you were talking about, and that was better than that. It was like better than a couple of the ones higher up.
Yeah, it was weird. I couldn't figure out a clear order to it. But yeah, that was probably my highlight of the game. The messing with the gun.
Great headshots as well, as I said to you, like rivaling Gears for the splatter noise that you get of a headshot, and the sound of the bullet as well on top. It's like a thud and a splat all in one horrible little.
I wonder if we've still got our list. Did we not make up when we started doing this podcast? Did we not make a list of best guns?
We did it. We may have done a podcast about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to revisit and slot the old RoboCop pistol in there. See if it makes the cut.
Yeah.
Alex, what podcast are we doing next?
We are going to. Are we doing The Batman? Yeah. Did we decide on that?
Is that the Robert Pattinson?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we decided.
Yeah, The Batman and Batman Arkham City. No, Arkham
Or
Asylum.
Asylums.
Yeah.
Not Night. I just wanted to round them all
No,
out and mention them all.
no, definitely not Arkham. No, definitely not Arkham Knight.
Arkham Asylum and The Batman will be next up. We're also playing a different game, but that'll be after these podcasts.
Hang on, let's see if we can find it. Right, we had Fat Man, Lancer, Boltok pistol. That's probably where RoboCop's having the fight. PP7, Silenced, and Super Shotgun from Doom.
That PP7.
Classic. Yeah, maybe we kick out the PP7 for the RoboCop gun.
Yeah, perhaps.
Paint roller, get out of here.
And
yeah, that's the next one. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Replay this Batman game for a long ass time.
Yeah, it's been a long time, so I'm hoping they're still fun. There's a person I follow on Twitch that's been replaying the Batman games, and she seems to be having a good time. So hopefully, I do too, and you.
Let's find out where I can watch the Batman.
Oh yeah, let's have a look at that. In case you're listening to this and you want to follow along as well, so where do you get the Batman?
You get it nowhere, unless you pay for it. Might be worth getting the old B double.
How much is it? Let's have a look on
4K.
Shopping, Amazon.
Other outlets are available.
The Batman.
Blu-ray, 10 quid. It's not bad.
Yeah, so you get Blu-ray for tenner. What's the 4K?
20 quid.
20 quid. It's almost worth getting the 4K, mate.
Yeah.
Or you can get the DVD for £5.99 if you're slumming it.
Cheap.
You won't be you won't be getting it on VHS though, I'm afraid. And I suppose that brings us to the end of another episode of the Winners You podcast. If you liked what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to us on your podcast feed of choice? Or if you prefer to imbibe your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and search A Winner Is You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for your bi-weekly dose of A Winner Is You chattery, you can also follow us on our website, formerly known as Twitter, at The Winner Is You pod. And you can even send us an email to tell us how wrong we are about our gaming opinions by writing to awinnerisyoupod@gmail.com. Or if you want to suggest another movie game combo for us, that's another interesting email that you can send us. Alex and I also have Twitter at DavidSmiley1 and at SuperThrillix. And we have TikTok now, so head on over to TikTok and just search A Winner Is You pod and we will pop up. Alex, have you got any housekeeping? Or are we getting out of here?
Let's get out of here.
And on that bombshell, I've been David, he has been Alex, and we have been A Winner Is You, and I'm out.
Keep gaming.